بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Surah Yasin. This was our special program for the month of Ramadan. But we continue till we complete the surah, then inshallah we can go back to history of Shia Islam. I was informed that I missed reflecting on verse 12. I started from verse 13 thinking that I have done verse 12 because I have been doing tafsir of Surah Yasin in Farsi and English, and I knew that I had discussed it, but it was for Farsi. So we quickly review verse 12 and then resume from where we ended last week. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. One of the themes of this surah is resurrection, and we will have more discussion about resurrection in future. But here also there is a mention of death and resurrection, especially because in the ayah before we talked about being reminded and remembrance. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر. So we know that very important part of our ability to be mindful and conscious is remembering death. If we forget that we are going to be resurrected, we become heedless. When Allah talks about people who are continuously glorifying Him, يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة. Then he says يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. So these people get energy from different things. In particular here, one of the things which is highlighted is they have fear of the day in which hearts and eyes are transformed. Or when it comes to benefiting from the example of the Prophet, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. So thinking about death is very important. Therefore, here there is a mention, but inshallah there is expansion later about death and resurrection. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. We truly revive the dead. Life comes from Allah, and He is the one who can take it away. يحيي ويميت ويميت ويحيي. وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا. Also we write down whatever they have sent in advance. Means actions during life. These are things that we send in advance for the hereafter. وَآثَارَهُمْ. Sometimes there are actions, sometimes there are results of actions. Actions stopped by death. Results of actions don't stop by death. It continues generation after generation up to the end of this world. results of our actions are continuing. It can go tens of generations and they can be affected in dunya, and you will be also affected in akhirah. So your actions will have good results inshallah, but there can be sometimes bad results in dunya and in the hereafter. Of course, Allah is going to benefit from good actions of the parents, for example, their children, or from good actions of children, their parents, but the sins of parents will not affect the children and vice versa, but it can affect their situation. So no one is going to be suffering in his relation with God because of parents being bad, but if parents were not careful and didn't do things properly, whether it's in a worldly sense or religious sense, it can make life of the children complicated. So good actions have great impact. Bad actions may have some limited impact anyway. So everything is registered, the actions and atharahum up to end of this world. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. We have exhausted, we have, carefully listed everything in a clear, in a manifest imam. Imam means leader, but sometimes it is used also for a book. And here it seems that Imam Mubin is Lawh Mahfuz, is the preserved tablet. Everything which is happening or has happened or is going to happen, everything is there. All our actions are there, all awsar are there, intentions are there, meetings, everything. To the extent that elsewhere Quran says, people wonder, why nothing is missing. ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها. The same أحصينا. What is happening with this book? Doesn't let anything remain unnoticed. Anything صغيرة, small, or كبيرة, big, is listed here. In some hadith, Imam Mubin is taken to mean the Hujjah of Allah. Although this may not be the literal meaning of Imam Mubin, but we know that Hujjah of Allah has also access to Lawh Mahfuz. They have knowledge of Ilmul Kitab, they have knowledge of the old book, everything is there. Therefore, in the same way that everything is in Lawh Mahfuz, everything is also known to the Imam. And maybe in the heart of Imam, everything is there. Plus, Imams receive reports, regular reports from Allah. So there are different ways that they are informed. One is that they are witness. As soon as we do something, the witness of Allah is monitoring. But also regularly, they receive reports. For example, under قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. There are hadiths that show that they receive weekly or twice a week, reports also. So this was the ayat that I wanted to refer to, and then we go back to the ayah 20. You remember we talked last week about a story of people of Antakya. It is said that that city was city of Antakya in Turkey. This city, at the time that we are talking about, was inhabited by mainly idol worshippers, by polytheists. Later it became a hub for Christianity, and later it became inhabited by Muslims. It's a very important hub for Christianity for several centuries. If you remember, we said some people say that these three people, apostles, were apostles of Jesus. Some say they were apostles of Allah, some say apostles of Jesus, but apostles of apostle of God are apostles of God. So we are not surprised if they are referred to as people that Allah has sent, and then he says, فَعَزَّزْنَا بِالثَّالِثِ. When people of Antakya enlarged, they didn't have respectful, open, logical discussion with the messengers. And indeed, they said, you are responsible for all the problems that we have, and if you don't stop, we are going to stone you, and you will receive very painful punishment from us, etc. They were going to kill them. So a believer in that city that had hidden his faith up to that point, now that he saw that these messengers are in danger of being killed, tried to defend them. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ الرَّجُلُ يَسْعَى. From remote places of this city. You remember we first talked about قَرْيَةً وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابَ الْقَرْيَةِ. I said in Quran, قَرْيَة is not necessarily a village. Sometimes it's used for Mecca, etc. And here you see Medina is used. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ الرَّجُلُ يَسْعَى. From remote places of the city, a man came. يَسْعَى. He was walking fast because there was a risk of those three people to be killed. It was a time that you should, be quick. Otherwise, you will arrive late. And this person was an ordinary person from worldly perspective, although he was a great person. But from worldly perspective, he didn't have a special power or money or position. رَجُلٌ, a man, a human being. And also, أقصى المدينة. He was not from the very central part of the city where normally rich people, live, at least at that time, when the cities, used to grow. So the people who had more history, more power, more position certainly would be towards the center of the city. Even now, in some large cities, in the outskirts of the cities, you find very deprived areas. Although sometimes very good, expensive areas also in the outskirts of the cities, but sometimes no. People who are there are people who are not able to afford to live inside the city or in central part of the city. So this person came from a very far place, very much trying to be fast and quick, yas'a, like sa'i between Safa and Marwa. قال يا قوم. He said, my people. It's very interesting. He tried to remind them of the ties of brotherhood or fraternity between members of the same tribe, same people, at least from same city. يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين. follow the people who have been sent with a message for you. It is said that when they were also going to kill him, he was praying for them. And he said, Allahumma hdi qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. The same thing that we have about Rasulullah in the battle of Uhud. That when some people said, لو دعوت عليهم, we wish you, had cursed them. Rasulullah said, Allah has not sent me to curse. And he prayed for them to be guided. Oh Allah, please guide my people. He considered them as his people. This was also said by this person. So when he says, Ya qawm, it's a way to overcome unnecessary barriers. اتبعوا المرسلين, follow مرسلين. اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. Follow the people that neither they ask you for something for themselves. They don't ask you for money. They don't ask you for any position, any house, any, servants, etc. They don't want anything from you. This is very important, that those who want to deliver a message as much as possible must not demand anything in return. In Surah Shu'ara, there are 5 places that we have وَمَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ. The prophets used to say, we don't ask any return from you, any payment from you. Our prophet was the only one that, in addition to saying, I don't want any return, sometimes he was asked to say, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. It seems, at least in the Quran, there is no mention of any other prophet saying إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Only our prophet was asked. And my understanding is that it's because it is going to be the last prophet. So we don't have any prophet. So the way to continue is to show love to the Ahlul Bayt. But this showing love is not just to love in heart, is a matter of following. قُلْ مَا سَأَلْتُكُم مِّنْ أَجْرٍ فَهُوَ لَكُمْ. Also, إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ أَنْ يَتَّخِذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ سَبِيلًا. So this love has to become sabil, has to become a path, a direction for us. So for the last prophet, we have this إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. And even this is for ourselves, not for the prophet. No prophet wanted anything for himself from people. So he says, اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا. They don't want any payment, any return, any even gratitude. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. Those are pure, sincere. They don't want even gratitude from people. وهم مهتدون. Also, they are guided. Sometimes maybe a person is misguided. Actually, sometimes misguided people are very humble and kind. Sometimes, sometimes they're very arrogant. But sometimes this is a way that shaitan deceives. Sometimes shaitan uses people's humbleness and good akhlaq to cover up their mistaken ideas and let people be attracted to them. Even they themselves sometimes don't realize that they have been misguided. So it's not that everyone who is kind or humble or has good akhlaq necessarily means he's guided. Yes, those who are guided are supposed to be having good akhlaq, but not everyone who has good akhlaq is necessarily guided. In any case, these are the people that they don't want anything in return, and وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ, and they are guided. If you have problem with their evidence, with the proof, yes, you are more than welcome to ask, to do research, to inquire very logically, with openness, with respect. Say, can you explain why you believe that there is resurrection, for example? Why we should believe that God is one. No problem. You can have very good discussion, asking serious questions, even about the existence of God, no problem. But to say that without listening to the other person, without asking for any argument, إنما أنت بشر مثلكم وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء. They don't want to engage in discussion and conversation. They are blocking any conversation by saying, you are wrong, you are lying, God has not sent anyone, you are human beings like us, طائركم معكم. So it's a problem. But he was saying, هم مهتدون, they are guided. Do you see any sign of misguidance? Is there any inconsistency in them? وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَّرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Plus, this is fitra here. You ask me to worship idols. Why I should not worship and serve the one who has created me? Should we worship someone that we have created without understanding, without intelligence, without being benefiting us? With our own hands, we made this a statue and we say this is our God. Is it better to worship this or to worship the one that has created? وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Plus, we are all going back to him because he created us, he can call us back. If you produce something, you can call back. If a company is producing car, then at some point they can say, we call all our cars back, we want to change one part. But you cannot produce car, then another factory, calls them back. So, مَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. You are all going back towards him. أَأَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. Shall I take people or things other than him as my ilah? Aliha is plural form for ilah. Ilah means ma'lu, means something to worship. So shall I take other things for my worship as objects of worship other than Allah? What can they do for me? إِن يُرَدْنَا الرَّحْمَنُ بِالضُّرِّينَ. If Allah, who is merciful, who is very kind, if it happens that he wants to make sure that a problem, a misery comes to me, I become, suffering, for example, as a matter of punishment, can I do something to be saved? Can these gods do shafa'ah for me? لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا. They had this idea, like people of Mecca, that these idols can do shafa'ah. وَمَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا يُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ. We don't worship them unless we want them to take us closer to God. So they knew that this is the maximum they can do. They are not creators. Allah is the main one. لَإِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ يَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. If you ask them who has created skies, then they say God. So they wanted to say at best they can do shafa'ah for us. مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ. We want them to take us closer to God. خب. These people, if Allah wants something bad happen to me because of my punishment, etc., لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا. Their shafa'ah is not going to help me. They have to do shafa'ah to God. There's no one else. And these people have no ability, no power, because من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. Whoever wants to do shafa'ah must be permitted. These idols have no reality, no position to ask God. وَلَا يُنْقِذُونَ. They cannot benefit me with their shafa'ah. They cannot save me or rescue me. They don't do anything. إني إذن لفي ضلال مبين. If I want to ask them to help me through shafa'ah, etc., it's not going to work. So if I worship them instead of Allah, this is clear misguidance. I should worship the one that created me. مَا لِي لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. But if I want to worship this and take this as my Allah, then إِنِّي إِذَنْ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Then he said, now, this is the situation. I explained the situation in general terms. But I myself have made up my mind. إِنِّي آمَنْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ. I have believed in your Lord. God is yours. God is not mine only. God is not for these messengers only. God is yours. And in a very nice way to engage, he says, I believed in your Lord, so you believe in your Lord. If someone else can believe in your Lord, why you cannot believe in your Lord? آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. So listen to me. And some people say means bear witness. Sometimes we ask people to hear testimony. So fasma'un can mean listen to me, can mean bear witness, can mean obey me. It's like a kind of irshad. When alim is doing irshad of jahil, jahil has to listen. When someone is doing amr ma'ruf, the other person has to listen. إِنِّي آمَنْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ فَاسْمَعُونَ. So hear from me. Then ayat doesn't go into what happened at the end to this person, but you can guess from next ayah. قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. He was told to enter heaven. What do you understand? That he must have been killed. He became martyr. They didn't listen to him. Rather, they killed him. What happened to those messengers? Did they kill them also? Some say they managed to go away. He made them busy. This mu'min made them busy. And they killed him. But this created chance for them to leave. Some people say those were also killed. Especially when it says وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ مِنْ جُنْدٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. After him, not after them. If they were all killed, it maybe was better to say مَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ, after them. Maybe, but there is another interpretation that those three were killed. And maybe it is said ba'di because the focus has been on this one person from the same group, the same people. قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And it seems that it is right after death. As soon as this person is killed, he said, go to heaven. So it must be Jannah in Barzakh. We call Jannat Barzakhi. Because when we die, Amir al-Mu'minin said, Al-Qabru imma rawdatun min riyad al-Jannah or hufratun min hufar al-Niran. Either is a garden of the gardens of heaven or is a hole of the holes of hell. Of course, there are some people in between who are just sleeping. But for some people, their pleasures start right after death. So this person, right after death, starts experiencing heaven, but temporary, barzakhi kind of heaven. قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. Go to heaven. Very quick. But this person was very nice person, very considerate, very concerned about his people, their guidance, their hereafter situation. قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. I wish my people, again قومي, I wish my people knew that my Lord has forgiven me and has made me one of those who are honored. Not that he wanted to, tease them and say, you were not accepting my ideas, you were, attacking me, you killed me, therefore now it's the time for me to tease you, to annoy you. No. He really wanted their guidance. He says, I wish people knew that what is happening after death, so that when they have time, they can believe. يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي. They knew that my Lord has forgiven me and has made me one of the people who are mukram, who are honored, like angels. عباد مكرمون لا يسبقونه بالقول. And what is interesting also is that Ghafara is mentioned first. They don't say, I wish people knew that how good I am, how I am a martyr, Allah has rewarded me, etc. No, they first say Ghafara li Rabbi. For sure I had shortcomings, I had sins. The first thing I want to highlight is that I was forgiven. And even more, not only I was forgiven, but I was not forgiven and saying, okay, go away, don't come near us, you have lost your position, we just don't want to punish you. But like sometimes people are freed from prison, but unfortunately some people in mind, they cannot free them, they don't give them job, etc. So he says, my Lord has forgiven me and has honored me, has made me one of those who are honored. He wanted the same thing to happen to his people. Therefore, in hadith says he did nasiha for his ummah. Means he wanted good for them twice. One is here. قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. Before that, when he was alive, he did nasiha. He wanted good for them by talking to them. اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. And even after that also, he wanted to help them to believe. Okay, but to this person, after he was killed, this great thing happened. What happened to the people who killed this person? People who rejected the messengers, people who maybe killed them, definitely killed this person. What happens to them? How they're going to be disciplined? Inshallah, we discuss in the next session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.